Hello, this is Katie Carwan, and welcome to my live l- live stream. Of course, every week I have a Lunch and Unlearn session here for 15 minutes, and you are welcome to join either live or, of course, take part of the replay afterwards. So, a warm welcome to you today. And today's topic is one of my favorite topics, both relating to my own um, situation, my own development, my own self management skills, but also for something very important to many people that I meet in my work. And the topic is unlearning the downsides to procrastination. Many of us feel that there's something negative about procrastinating, and I'm not sure that that needs to be the case. So let's see if we can unlearn that together today. And before we get started into the details, I just want to make sure that if you're following live, check your audio settings so you can tap into the audio. And of course, fill in if you have any comments or questions along the way, and I'll do my best to pick them up and answer them either directly or afterwards. Let's dive into today's topic. And if this is the first time you are joining one of the Lunch and Learn sessions, you will know that this is not about putting things aside forever, forgetting about things. This is more about consciously choosing an alternative mental model. That's what we mean with unlearning. It has to do with changing perspective and consciously making decisions to do things differently, changing our behavior. So I hope that clarifies in case you were wondering about my definition of unlearning. And why this is important is because, of course, we need to unlearn many things today as things are changing so rapidly. The old truths might not be necessarily true anymore. So we need to make sure that we are conscious in the way we approach things and what we constantly need to unlearn and then relearn to stay in demand in the working space and in the job market. So just to clarify, this is hopefully then applicable either you are already in a position where you are looking for a new job, or if you are looking to start your own business, or if you are looking to do a better job where you are. So there are no limits to your scenario. Procrastination tends to show up based upon our personal behavior and things we have learned to be true from our very first years on this planet. So, with that, I would love to go on and make sure that we crack the code as usual. So, first of all, we need to understand what the downsides to procrastination might be. Because some people are just fine with procrastination, and I admire them, and I try to be the same way. And first of all, let's define procrastinate. So I checked the Latin, and pro is forward, and crastinus is of tomorrow. So basically, moving, pushing things till later. So then we're in the clear with that. And what is it about? Well, it's about actually having a habit or an intention to delay either starting tasks or finishing tasks. I'm sure you can relate to that. And some of the negative associations with procrastination might be that you feel bad about yourself. You can even feel signs of depression. Maybe you have a low self esteem because you tend to procrastinate and you get a lot of worries about that. It could also generate a lot of guilt or feeling of inadequacy as well. So, all of these tend to affect us in a negative way, and the procrastination process tends to set us in a position where we are not actually able to maybe use the most of our resources, come up with a great outcome in the end. So, what could be the upsides to procrastination? What is wise about procrastinating? And there are a couple of things that I think come to mind. So, first of all, there's wisdom in this. We know that there's risk in moving along too quickly, and maybe we have negative outcomes. Maybe we have negative experiences in moving too fast. Maybe we know that we can wait actually for new information to emerge, and also that will help us to really make some better decisions along the way. And also, it might be a good idea, if you know how you work with your own creativity, to make sure that you see the procrastination as maybe an opportunity for you to incubate, to make sure that you set things in motion internally without actually doing anything, but you trust the process and you know that at the end, something will show up that you can use in order to make a decision or complete a task. So, with that, I can see that there's a comment coming along, so I will highlight that. And Magdalena is sharing here that people tend to stigmatize procrastination as if we don't have the discipline to get things done. Thank you. I couldn't have said it better myself, Magdalena. Thank you for sharing that. And that is true. It is seen as something that is negative and that we are lazy or we are not, I would say, disciplined enough because we have better knowledge. And that is why I'm questioning this. And maybe we can unlearn that perceived downside to procrastination. Thank you, Magdalena, for adding that. I really appreciate that. So when we have now talked about what procrastination is, how does it show up? So I'm sure you can go to yourself and you can tell yourself that, okay, if I procrastinate, something interesting tends to happen, right? So maybe I find myself doing other things. Maybe I do things that are kind of boring instead of doing what I should have been doing according to this scenario. And of course, that could lead to more guilt, and you can also feel disappointed about yourself. So, this is a negative spiral unless we change perspective. And that's exactly what we're going to do in a second. But before that, I also want to highlight another comment from Magdalena here, who believes that if we procrastinate an idea, it means that it's not incubated enough yet. Thank you for that. So it could be seen as part of a creative process where we actually start the incubation and then we trust it to mature over time when we're able to go to action. So I think there are some great intersection points here, Madalena, with your area of creativity and idea generation as well. Okay, so let's move on then and see how can we change the perspective? What can we actually do? And one thing that I know for sure is that we can actually look at how we evaluate ourselves, how we assess ourselves in terms of how good we are at procrastination or not procrastinating so much. So, with that, I would love to challenge you of thinking in terms of output goals versus input goals. For typically, when we procrastinate, we have this very tough, challenging, maybe goal at the end. It should be a great presentation, it should be the final exam, it should be something that needs to be obtained by KPIs or something similar. And those are the output goals, right? So unless we see that we're on the way there, we will tend to procrastinate because it feels overwhelming. It feels far stretched. However, if we change perspective and think in terms of input goals instead, that could be a way of actually living, learning to love and live with procrastination as a part of your process. So, what is the change or the difference between input and output goals? Input goals means that you're not actually clarifying the exact end result. You are instead putting input. So instead of saying, I'm going to finalize 30 of these tasks by end of today, you say, I'm going to spend 1 hour doing things in this area. I'm going to do something as an input towards the goals, but I'm not stretching for the end goals yet. So by input goals, you set aside time, for instance, in order to get things moving, to I would say, speed up the incubation process. And Then again, that's something that you need to train and practice in order to become good at. So that's something I always inspire people to do, to find opportunities, find examples that are meaningful to you. So if you have any typical situations where you typically procrastinate, make sure that you start to practice this type of new perspective, so you can actually see the difference in and the quality that comes through changing this habit. Let me give you an example so we are making this clear. So from my own business, I try to find examples that could be meaningful to other people. And this time, I would love to pick an example from the admin area. In the past, I really had a hard time in doing my, company, my business admin and bookkeeping on a regular basis. I kind of delayed it until the very end when the hard truth was there, and it was typically not a very positive process. I had a lot of guilt about it. I should be better at doing these things. And then I realized that I wasn't really fun to be around when I was doing that type of work. I wasn't the best version of myself because there was many negative associations to that process. So instead, I try to find an input goal instead of saying I need to be finalized with these tasks. I need to reconciliate this type of accounts. I need to complete the invoicing and so on. Instead, I put in an hour here and there and just said, okay, I'm going to set aside an hour to do this work. And guess what happened? Over time, an hour became what I needed every week in order to get most things done in the admin area. And there was not the same type of pressure, it was not the same type of negative associations to that. So, again, by shifting from output to input goals, I managed actually to change my perception of that process from very negative to neutral, slightly positive. It's more fun now, actually. It's easier. It doesn't create all this, I would say, disappointment or guilt around me and my team anymore. So this is something that is very, very simple example, but I hope it can help you understand what it could be like in your case. So, as usual, I would love to issue a challenge from me in case you find this topic interesting. And the first question I have for you this week is this one. Are there any typical situations where you tend to procrastinate and feel bad about it? So if you procrastinate and feel good about it and you handle it well, you don't mind. But if you feel bad about it, just try to see what type of situations are we talking about. Are there any red threads here? Could you kind of become more aware of when this happens so you can identify it and maybe then choose to have an alternative mental model and change perspective? And when you have identified that area, if there is one, maybe you can define some input goals that you can set to ease your discomfort so you can learn to live with this. So I hope this was a challenging kind of question for you and that you will benefit from that. I would love to hear from you in terms of comments, in case you have any add-on materials or ideas for this topic. So feel free to add any comments that you might have. And time is really up already, I can notice. So that leaves me just with sharing next week's topic. And this is a topic that I also hope will be of interest. Next week's topic will be unlearning the comfort of defaulting to your own comfort zone. So, what is really your comfort zone, and why do we tend to default into that? And what can we do in order to, I would say, spend more time maybe in the learning and the growth zone? If you are an individual, a professional looking to develop your skills and stay in demand as a leader. So, Hope to see you then. Have a nice week and good luck with your challenge. Take care. Bye.